Alright, so it's time. The ultimate opponent. Yes, yes, you're referring to yourself. Of course we'll fight. Let's do it. All this prep, which is probably like 2 days total worth of prep, will finally come to fruition. Who is that? Her power is unbelievable. Yeah, I know, right? Alright, so we're not doing the most optimal way of feeding Elizabeth. But, yeah, we'll make it work. Now, as for the general weaponry we have here, we have Armor of Light, we have Shoes of Light, we have Lucifer's Blade, we also have Divine Pillar. So generally we're about as tanky as we could possibly be here. We also have all the resistances on our character here. Besides, I think maybe light and dark, or maybe just dark, I don't quite remember. But yeah, in terms of all the resistances against all non-insta-kill attacks, we have resistances to it. That plus Divine Pillar basically makes it so we're only taking about 75% of the damage we would be taking. We also have like infinite items thanks to all of our farming. Oh yeah, and our persona has high counter as one of its skills, and you'll see that comes into a huge play. That'll come into play hugely for us as this fight goes on, but for the time being, as you can see, we're only doing about 200 damage with the Mind Charge Maggie Dolan, which is pretty pathetic, but it's also the hardest boss in the game, so it's not as bad as it looks. We also have a ton of homunculus on this. I want to say I have close to 20, probably like 15 to 20, which considering we don't have the ability to have resistances to, or not resistances, but absorption or nullification against light and dark, you can see why we would need so many. Especially when but Elizabeth hits those a lot more than you think she would. Alright, so this is probably the most important. Much like Margaret, Elizabeth also has a setup here in terms of the pattern that she does. So she always does this more or less a specific pattern. But before she chooses me, she'll always use Nebros there to status affect me. We also have Unshaken Will on as one of our skills, so she's not able to use mental status effects against us, but she can poison us. Now you always have the affinity on the turn that she uses Nebros, because both of those Maggie Dolans you see right there are the cheating 9,999 Maggie Dolans. So you must use Infinity that turn every single time, or you will die. I clear the poison there. The real reason behind it is just so she doesn't potentially crit me, and then due to the extra poison damage, kills me as a result of it. Because Elizabeth can crit you, and well, a crit is basically death in this fight, at least in terms of us, but I don't think I actually ended up critting her in this fight. But as you can see here, we can pretty much face tank a lot of her stuff, which is, it looks a lot less impressive than what it actually is, but considering we have like 75%-ish damage reduction between our persona resisting everything due to all the skills we put on her, plus our natural armor with Armor of Light and Shoes of Light, and then of course Divine Pillar reducing damage by 50%. Like, we're about as tanky in this game that you could possibly get, and we're still getting kind of destroyed HP wise. I mean, every like 2 or 3 turns we're basically half the heal. The light and dark insta-kill turns are basically breathing room turns. So long as you have enough homunculus, because you absolutely need to have a lot of homunculus for this fight, because even though I want to say the skills are about 35 to 40% hit rate. She hits them far too often. Like an unnaturally high amount that she actually hits these. Maybe I was just unlucky, I don't know. But yeah, she hits a lot of insta-kill skills, so definitely make sure to bring, I would say, like 15 to 20 homunculus into this fight. Our general pattern, I mean, we literally only have 2 skills, which is Mind Charge, Maggie Dolan, so that's what we're going to be doing. Whenever you see anything like Evil Smile, Poison Mist, etc., whenever you see Nevros, you have to use Infinity or you will die. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You will die. Because there's no way, at least in Portable, as far as I'm concerned, you can actually live through 9,999 Maggie Dolans. Like, so you have to use Infinity. I think Valhalla also gives you Infinity for 1 turn, but then you may or may not just faint right after, so basically you're forced to use Infinity. You also have to have an argument on the killer. Much like Margaret, like it's an actual win condition, which is kind of lame for the fact that you need it. But it is what it is. Ideally, you want to fight Margaret on the first time that you beat Vision Quest, because Vision Quest will give you more or less all the infinities and Argamendons and whatnot you would need. Which is probably why Vision Quest is there in the first place, is to set you up for beating Margaret and Elizabeth. But if you don't do it on your first playthrough, or the playthrough that you win or beat all of Vision Quest on, then the next time you go in the playthrough, Vision Quest essentially gives you nerf rewards, and you gotta farm up all of your infinities and Armageddons yourself, which is not fun to say the very least. I think I legitimately spent like 2 days. And when I say 2 days, I mean like 48 hours of like prepping for this fight, which is just insane to think about. But yeah, so Margaret, she has a set pattern where she always does the, 4 regular elemental attacks, and then she'll do light insta-kill, then dark insta-kill. Then she'll use Nebros to status affect you, and then go for the 9,999 Maggie Dolans. So you definitely have to keep that pattern in mind as you fight her, especially because she, on the turn that she uses Nebros, she won't actually use Nebros in that turn half the time, and people might be confused by that and be like, "What do you mean?" Well, as we can see, she's using Nebros right now, but I did have turns where she would actually attack me twice using physical attacks, which if I didn't remember the pattern, I would have died, because she would have hit me with the double Maggie Dolan after. So, like, if you gotta write it down on, like, a piece of paper or whatnot in order for you to remember the turn counter you're on, then absolutely do it. Also, make sure you have a calculator, or if you can mental math all the damage. Elizabeth only has 20,000 health, so once you get her down to 10,001 HP, you can drop the Armageddon, and it's a GG. So if you remember all the damage calculated in your head and whatnot, like, good for you, but I would definitely say legitimately, like, bring up your phone calculator and go ahead and just start typing in all the damage. Now this is a very spooky situation. As you can see, she actually crit me right there. So So, like I said earlier, Elizabeth can actually crit you. Thankfully, we had just healed, so our HP was fine for the most part. But you can see how getting crit at under half health would essentially be a death sentence. So, definitely keep that in mind. High counter doesn't always work, as you've seen right there. Depending on what attack she uses, she can actually nullify her own the damage she would have taken from high counter. I would still say bring high counter, because I mean, what, every high counter is done about 450, 460-ish damage. That's like, I mean, that's almost like 3 turns worth of us using Mind Charge Maggie Dolan, which is pretty insane. So, yeah, high counter, definitely something you want to use. It's not the most reliable thing ever. It's only about a 20% rock rate. But when it goes off, it goes off. And any extra damage you can get in this fight, I would say take it. One of the skills we do have is Unshakable Will. And people might be like, why would you want that skill specifically? Well, she can use mental status effects in this, which can mess you up. If you get feared, you can potentially die, because if you get feared and you lose your turn because of it, then of course next turn she drops the 9,999 Maggie Dolans. And because of the fact that you'd be feared, you wouldn't have been able to set up Infinity, so it'd just be an insta-kill. Which is pretty cheesy. I mean, what isn't cheesy about this boss fight? But, yeah, I did not want to lose just because I got feared at the wrong point in time here, so we went ahead and got Unshakable Will. I got it from Asura in this game. I'm not sure if there's anybody else that actually knows Unshakable Will in this game, but Asura is the one that can give you Unshakable Will. So if you haven't fused Asura and you want Unshakable Will, that's your way to get it there. So we're just kind of making our way through this fight. As long as she doesn't crit us, we're generally okay for the most part. It's when she crits us is where I was like the most concerned. I was like, oh, I'm gonna die. But yeah, no, when she's just spamming us with like 2 elemental attacks, we're generally pretty fine, because I did try to keep my health relatively high. I also have like infinite healing items, because I really wanted to make sure that I had as much as I did. I think I had like 12 somas going into this fight or something, so I probably could have been using those a bit more just to keep my SP a little bit higher. But we're really not using SP like that. I mean, Mind Charge Maggie Dolan, I don't have Spellmaster on her, so it is about 100 SP per Mind Charge Maggie Dolan combo, but considering we have 999, we really don't have to pop somas like that. It's always spooky whenever she goes for a physical attack, because a crit at the wrong time is just death. You can pretty much breathe anytime she goes on to the light and dark insta-kill turns. Because so long as you have enough Homunculus, these turns are basically dead turns for her, because you're not gonna, you know, because if you have enough Homunculus, all it's gonna do is remove it from your inventory. Which is fine. If you have 15 to 20 Homunculus, and you're relatively lucky with your insta-kill RNG not proccing every turn, which we really didn't have, but it did. It ended up not being a problem at the end of the day. But yeah, I would still say probably about 15 to 20 Homunculus. That will pretty much get rid of any chance of you potentially dying through the light and dark insta-kill phases. Which gives you essentially 2 turns to set yourself up however you want. Now, Heat Riser would have absolutely been a nice skill to have had. Debilitate would have been a really good skill to have had. There's definitely a lot more setup that I could have done for this fight, but considering I probably put about 40 like 2 days worth of like IRL in-game hours for this fight, I was like, you know what, I'm good. I'm gonna make this happen. So yeah, there's definitely more optimization we could have done for this fight, but I would still say we came into this fight relatively well prepared. I really just did not like the poison in this fight. It just added a little bit more randomness in this fight that I didn't like. Like, see, if she would have hit me right there, we still would have lived by about 60 HP or so, but we would have probably went down to 1 HP because of the poison. Of course, we could have just healed it up with the Soma. She gets another crit right there. And also, yeah, that's another death sentence if she does 2 physical attacks in a row and dizzies you. So, yeah, that's us eating 3 attacks in a row. Make that 4 attacks in a row. Make that 5 attacks in a row. Oh my. See, I thought I lost the fight right there. Literally, if I did not use a Soma that turn, I would have been dead. If I didn't have Divine Pillar and resist every single one of her attacks right there, I would have been dead. Like, because I was dizzy. I literally would have not have been able to do anything at that point in time. So I think that was probably the closest I ever came to death in this fight. And it was based off of a crit. So there is a little bit of luck involved in terms of, you know, not getting crit at the wrong opportunity, which is just a level of spookiness that I really didn't want to have to deal with. But I've only got so many skills I can use on my persona there. Now, I think a lot of people would more than likely recommend using the ultimate persona of Persona 3, aka the world one, or in Persona 3, I guess they might consider it the universe one. I want to say the name is Orpheus Telos or something, but he essentially naturally resists everything in the game, kind of like if you played 4 with Izanami no Akame or Persona 5 with like Sen Nile, then generally along those lines. So people would probably recommend it more, which I would too, but of course you have to get all the social links and whatnot up to max, which is not always the easiest thing. Especially in the first playthrough, like, good luck to you, but, you know. I guess if you really boil it down to science, maybe you could, but we definitely did not do that, because we did our entire playthrough blind. As we always do for the first playthrough, at least. We're starting to run out of invincibilities. This is normal. Realistically, the fight should be done by the time you run out of infinities. Because if it isn't, that just means you're on a timer until she rolls around to her turn where she drops the 2 9,999 Megidolans. Because if you don't have an infinity that turn, you just insta-die no matter what. Even with Enduring Soul, you would still die, because you would only be able to take 1.
Prepare. Are you okay? I apologize in advance. Are you okay?
I think we actually got kind of lucky on that attack right there, because she low rolled. If she had high rolled, I mean, would it have been enough to be an extra 55 damage to get us? Maybe? Even then, we still would have lived because of our once more effect, because she hasn't actually gotten that from us as of yet. So we still would have been fine, though we might have had a heart attack in the meantime, but we would have been alive. There is actually a turn limit in this fight. Realistically, you'll probably never get to it.
Your power is every bit as impressive, but
that's actually an HP checkpoint. Just to say, I want to say that's about the 25% HP mark is where she makes that regard. So, still a little bit of a way to go. But progress nonetheless. We know we're free to go ahead and mind charge on the light insta-kill phase because of the fact that we're not worried about light and dark insta-kill. As you can see there, high counter, man, when it works, it works. You get that extra 400, almost 500 damage. This should be the Knee Bros turn, based on the pattern, in which case we're fine to go ahead and drop the mind charge Maggie Dolan. Some people would probably say I should have just gone for the heal there, which to a certain degree, I agree with it, but also there is a turn limit in this fight, so you definitely need to be doing damage when you can. We are in great condition for this fight. I'm not sure how much it realistically helped us in this fight, considering how accurate Maggie Dolan already is. But yeah, getting yourself in great condition, I believe, increases your accuracy. It also increases your crit rate, but I don't really see that doing all too much for us, considering we're only spamming Maggie Dolan, so... The extra accuracy from being in great condition, though, that's definitely worthwhile.
Prepare.
Realistically, if you're fighting Elizabeth, more than likely you're going to have a ton of Somas saved up, because unless it's like the first playthrough or something, and you're like me, we didn't really use Somas like that, which just left us a huge surplus for the Elizabeth fight here. I'm not saying you gotta use like this exact build to win, because there's definitely other videos out there where they use different things in order to win. But this is definitely a build you can use, being the Lucifer Blade, the Armor of Light, the Shoes of Light, and the Divine Pillar. Now the Shoes of Light, I think, gives you high magical resistance, which should work against every element. You know, like fire, ice, electric, wind. But I think it kind of gets negated by the fact that Divine Pillar exists. We also have resist for all of those on our persona through their skills, so I'm not entirely sure if it actually stacks or not like that. I want to say the Armor of Light gave us high physical evasion. But I know Divine Pillar definitely overrides that, because Divine Pillar gets rid of your ability to dodge entirely. Like, you will get hit by every attack that comes your way while you have Divine Pillar. But thanks to the 50% damage reduction, it's worthwhile. And people might be like, oh, but then you could have been avoiding more physical attacks and been taking less damage. But taking less damage in this fight, at least with the current build we have, while it is, like, spooky when she does land those crits and potentially dizzies me, we're not really too concerned. And the fact that we have high counter also helps, because if we're dodging all the time, then we're not getting high counter procs. And those high counter procs are starting to add up here. I mean, if we picked up, like, 5 or 6 of them at this point, I mean, that could be almost 2,000 damage or so, which is like 10% of her HP. And it also burns one of her attacks from actually hitting us. So it's as if we dodge, but we also get damage out of it. So there's an argument to be made that Divine Pillar is better. But I can also see people liking the idea of actually dodging more of Elizabeth's attacks. Although I'm pretty sure Evade Physical is probably close to high counters proc, and the chance that it's probably only about 20% or not. I don't know the actual number for it, but I would assume if high counters 20%, presumably, of that type of evasion would be around that level. Look at that high counter damage, man. 457. You'll love to see it. So good. I use beads here probably more than I should have. I don't know why. I was like still in this mindset of like saving Somas, which is like, why would you when you're fighting the ultimate boss in the game? Why would you not use your best stuff? But it's also kind of like, I didn't know how long this fight was going to be going on, so I didn't want to, you know, like burn a Soma at every possibility. In case I needed it later into the fight, because I am running out of SP. Definitely not as quick as I could be, but I am running out of it.
Can you withstand this? Are you okay?
Elizabeth is just a bully, you know? I mean, look at this. Yeah, like we still have 10 more solos after this. Our real damage turn actually tends to be through these insta-kill turns with the light and the dark. High counter, man, just so good. That I mean, I wouldn't say high counter is a requirement for this fight, but you can see how good it is. I mean, we're getting, what, like 450 plus per high counter proc? That is really good damage considering we're only doing about 200 is between Mind Charge and Maggie Dalton. You could go hard on something like Ragnarok, Fire Boost, Fire Amp whenever she switches to Jack Frost in order to do the ice moves, and then kind of build like a whole team of personas specifically around focusing on her actual persona's weakness at the time. So like Jack Frost, hit him with fire, if she switches to electric, hit him with wind sort of thing, and then have the boost and amp associated with it. And then have the severe elemental cast to it. And people might be like, what do you mean by that? I mean like the Panther Ray, the Ragnaroks, the Thunder Rain, the Niflheim, stuff like that, and then have like every boost under the sun for it. Because Elizabeth isn't weak to anything, but she does resist stuff. So, and she nullifies a lot of stuff, so the idea is to hit her when she switches to that element accordingly. So like Jack Frost right there, if you switch to whatever persona you had, but they had Fire Boost, Fire Amp, Ragnarok, you'd be doing more damage than my Mind Charge making Dalton. Just due to all the aims and the fact that she would only be resisting it. So that's probably a better DPS way, but that would also require you to have extremely specific persona setups in order to be able to deal with her. Because you gotta remember, every persona that you include cannot nullify, absorb, or reflect any of her elements, or she'll insta-kill you. While there probably is enough personas in the game to realistically do that, how likely is it for you to go out of your way to do that? I mean, I guess if you really wanted to win, but you're probably looking at like a week's worth, like, I mean, like a legitimate week's worth of real time setting up that team in order to be able to win. Which is doable, I guess. It just how dedicated you want to be for this fight. Or you can just do it the way we're doing, you know. I mean, it's definitely not the most optimal way, but it'll work. We are wearing her down right here. She's about to the halfway mark. So we're starting to look for Argamendon chances right here. Or Armageddon, however you want to refer to it. Now, I did actually have my phone calculator out in this fight, so I have an idea of how much HP I realistically have to do to her. Don't get trolled by the poison on you. You do need to use Infinity this turn. Even if you're poisoned, you gotta use Infinity, otherwise you're just gonna die to the Maggie Daltons. I felt myself almost get baited a few times because I saw the poison. I was like, oh, I'm poisoned. I guess I'll just get rid of it with this poison or whatever. But no, because if I did that, the turn immediately right after, I just would have died. So... yeah, don't do that. See, now this turn you could do it if you really wanted to. Obviously, we're going to get our HP back to full, because we would just die if we cleared off the poison. So you kind of just have to live with the poison for a little bit. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could just wait out the poison, but the poison just adds a little bit more unreliability, and I just really did not want to deal with it. If I would have lost the fight because of poison, I would have been so upset. So, yeah, now I was like, alright, I'll take the turn loss in order to be able to get rid of the poison. I think with our current setup, the biggest thing we would be scared of is physical attacks. Because those actually have crit associated with them, and if she dizzies me, then, like she did in the earlier fight, then you can see how that could be an insta-wipe. Even when we were at full HP, she still almost killed me. Like, if she would have, as soon as I had gotten dizzied, if she was set up to, like, hard focus me with basic attacks, I think she would have killed me. But thankfully she went for magic, which I was resistant to, thanks to my persona and divine pillars, so we were able to live in that scenario. But if she had just hard focused me, like if she crit me twice when I was busy, I would have been dead. Like there would have just been nothing I could have done. You can definitely see why you need so many homunculus in that fight, considering, you know, I just got hit by 2 dark instant kills in a row. So you're definitely looking, like I said earlier, between the 15 to 20, the 15 to 20 homunculus. Now poison is good, but also bad in this fight. If you just choose not to use unshakable will, then you basically need to be poisoned. And people might mean, like, what do you mean by that? Because if you're poisoned, it protects you against distress, fear, and all those other mental status ailments, because you can only have one status effect on you at a time. So poison in that sense actually kind of works like protection, and I think that's the way you would actually have to do it if you weren't going to use Unshakable Will. Because if you get distressed, then you can't use your persona, right? But that's okay in the sense that you're still going to use Infinity the next turn anyways, but then that does still mean that you have to get rid of distress at some point. Because distress, I think, more or less makes you more vulnerable to crit. Or at least it seemed like we always used to crit the personas, not the personas, but the shadows a lot whenever they were distressed. So you'd have to get rid of it that way if you were going to use Unshakable Will. Like, unless you really just wanted to be, like, masochistic, I don't know why you wouldn't use it. But hey, yeah, or just, you know, maybe you want to flex that much harder on a fight like this. You know, all the power to you if you want to do it, but it could not be me.
I apologize in advance.
Beautiful high counters. Usually whenever she gets high counters, she doesn't always go back for the next physical attack after that. High counter is going to come into play in a huge way soon enough here. And we'll call it out when it does that for sure. Light, dark, and skills again don't really matter so long as you have enough homunculus. It's essentially 2 free turns of actually doing damage to her. I wonder if in Reloaded you could actually punish her a lot more in this sense for the fact that dark and light skills aren't specifically insta-kill skills. Now people might be wondering why we're using why we use the Chewing Soul there. The idea is she's close to the point where she's going to reach half health. So what we're doing here is we're actually just buying time for a high counter proc. And the reasoning behind that is, if she attacks us on her second turn and the high counter procs, then that should drop her under the 10,000 HP, in which case we can use Armageddon. And because it will be her second turn, she actually won't have a chance to react to it and heal herself back to full. Because she's actually designed to heal herself, I believe, 2 or 3 times throughout this fight. But if you get her to attack you on her second turn and high counter procs, then that gives you your turn, and she'll be under the 10,000 HP. In which case you're able to go ahead and drop the Armageddon on her, and she literally has no time to react. Kind of like how we weren't able to react when we were getting busy. But in this a circumstance that actually works against the boss. I want to say this is the turn we do it, but I don't quite remember. Okay, it is. So once I saw that high counter, now it specifically has to be the second turn. Because if it happens on the first turn, she'll heal on the second turn. So literally it has to happen on the second turn, which is only a 20% chance. So we did get relatively lucky when we ended up actually having that happen. But yeah, as you can see right there, we have defeated
I believed
Elizabeth.
that I would find my answer when I challenged one who was stronger than me.
Aw, she acknowledges
was
we're stronger
wrong.
than her.
I have received no such revelation, not even in defeat. Wait,
She admitted it.
I am
Let's go.
mistaken. The answer is this.
Oh, do explain
Only
it to us.
I can decide who I am.
Wow. Who could have seen that one coming?
Now, I believe congratulations are in order.
Oh, you know
You
they
have
are.
overcome the most difficult obstacle I've placed in your path. You shall
Yeah.
receive your reward, the same as always.
Nice.
But please accept this as well.
Oh,
It
are
is
we
no
going back to the
reward.
dormitory?
It is a sign of my gratitude.
Okay, is it a bookmark? Of course it is.
Well then, good day.
So yeah, you do end up getting the platinum bookmark. And if you talk to Elizabeth right after this, she's like, oh, I'll just meet you back in the Velvet Room. But as you can see there, we had the Jade bookmark, which confirms that we defeated Margaret. But also we had the Platinum bookmark, meaning that we beat Elizabeth. So yeah, that's both the Ultimate Persona bosses. Hopefully you guys found that helpful, and we'll see you guys in the next video.